The next morning, Jake woke to a city buzzing with anticipation. Sunlight streamed through his window, illuminating dust particles dancing in the air. Yet, excitement couldn't wash away the knot in his stomach. The looming threat of losing the garden haunted him. As he stepped outside, a fresh breeze whispered promises of hope and possibility, but Jake remained rooted in worry that he found Charlie tending to the flowers already in bloom. "Hey, buddy." Charlie greeted, his hands covered in dirt but his spirit clear. "Today's the day. Everyone's pumped for the harvest celebration. You ready for it?" Jake nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, but..." He hesitated, the weight of the developer's plans crashing down again. "I can't shake the feeling that we could lose it all." Charlie straightened, his expression serious. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. You know this garden means more than vegetables. We can rally the community. Give them a reason to fight for what we've built." Jake took a deep breath, absorbing Charlie's words. As they worked, neighbors began to arrive. Some leaned against fences, others clutched basketfuls of fresh produce to share. Laughter floated in the air, blending with the sound of buzzing bees. It was a moment of connection, but Jake felt oddly detached. "Hey, Jake. Snap out of it." Lisa, one of his neighbors, called out. She approached with a tray of cookies, handing it to him. "Everyone's counting on you today." Looking around, Jake saw warmth in their smiles, enthusiasm in their voices. Yet, doubt crept in again, whispering harsh truths. What if today was just a prelude to disappointment? "Jake, do you trust us?" Charlie asked, catching the flicker of doubt in Jake's eyes. "I do, but what if we don't win?" Jake confessed, the vulnerability spilling out of him like a broken dam. Charlie placed a hand on Jake's shoulder, grounding him. "Winning isn't always about the result. It's about the journey we share, the bonds we create. No matter what happens, we've already gained so much. You've grown into a leader." With those words echoing in his heart, Jake felt a spark reignite. Perhaps Charlie was right. Perhaps it wasn't just about victory or defeat, it was about the people who stood alongside him, ready to fight for a dream. As the sun reached its peak, the garden transformed into a vibrant festival. Colorful banners fluttered in the gentle breeze, laughter rang like music, and families gathered, their faces painted with joy and purpose. The harvest tables overflowed with the fruits of their labor, a rich tapestry of colors and textures. Jake moved through the crowd, warmed by their energy, allowing himself to bask in the moment, but just as the festivities were in full swing, a figure emerged from behind the crowd, a man in a sharp suit, a clipboard in hand, looking completely out of place. Jake's pulse quickened. "The developer." "Excuse me." The man called out, his voice sharp as a knife. "I need to speak with whoever's in charge here." Jake's heart thundered in his chest. This was it. The moment he had dreaded. Taking a deep breath, he felt the weight of his neighbors behind him. Uncertainty quivered in the pit of his stomach, but with the community gathered, there was a flicker of hope. "Yeah, that's me," Jake said, stepping forward as dozens of eyes turned to him. The air felt electric, tension simmering just under the surface. "What do you want?" he asked, determination edging into his voice. Would he be able to stand firm against this threat? In the swelling silence, Jake understood the stakes were more significant than he had ever imagined. This was a turning point. A moment where he could channel all his fear, all his hope, into action, for himself and for everyone around him. But what would happen when he confronted the developer? Jake's heart raced as he prepared for the clash ahead. The developer stepped forward, a smirk playing on his lips as he eyed the chaos of the celebration. "I appreciate the warm welcome," he began, his tone patronizing. "I just want to remind you all that while this is lovely, it's also a distraction from reality." His gaze swept over the garden, dismissive. Jake clenched his fists, feeling the heat rise to his cheeks. "What do you mean, a distraction? This garden is everything to us. It's not just plants, it's our community, our lifeline." Sure, the developer continued, unfazed. "But I assure you, progress waits for no one, and if you accept my offer now, you won't have to worry about what happens next. He produced a glossy flyer, colors bright against the muted tones of the garden. I'm here to buy this land, turn it into something far greater. You wouldn't want to miss out on a chance for a modern development, right? A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of disbelief and anger. Jake felt the weight of their eyes, their hopes entrusting him to lead this moment. He straightened his back, memories of the late nights spent nurturing the plants flooding to the forefront of his mind. The laughter, the tears, the shared stories amongst neighbors, all of it depended on the decisions made today. And what do you think your greater would look like? Jake shot back, voice steady despite his racing heart. Concrete towers that eclipse our sunlight? Roads that drown out our laughter? The words poured out, fueled by a conviction he barely understood himself. The crowd behind him stirred, nodding in agreement. The developer's facade cracked, eyes narrowing. You really think this garden matters? He scoffed. It's a few flowers and some vegetables. People have bigger dreams, and I'm here to help you achieve them. But Jake refused to be swayed. What do you think makes a community dream big? It's not about the buildings, it's about the connections, the love that thrives in spaces like this. He spread his arms wide, encompassing everyone around him. People need homes, jobs, places to thrive. The developer shot back, his voice sharp. Your sentimental attachment won't pay the bills. In that case, perhaps you don't know the power of this community, Charlie chimed in, stepping beside Jake. These gardens mean livelihood, they mean roots that run deeper than any concrete. We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for our children, for their future. The crowd grew louder, a chorus of voices rising in solidarity, shouting their agreement. Jake felt the adrenaline surge through him, mixed with hope. They were standing shoulder to shoulder, united against a common foe, with every chance of winning dwindling. The developer's demeanor shifted. He plastered on a fake smile, attempting to regain control. I'm just trying to help. This isn't help, it's a threat. Jake declared, his heart aflame. And we'll be damned if we let someone come in and erase our history, our dreams. You're out of place here, and we won't back down. The palpable tension exploded into a roar among the crowd, and in that moment, Jake felt invincible, yet he knew better. This confrontation had just begun. It was a spark igniting a fire, but the battle for their future was still ahead. The developer would come back with more than words. Let us rally together. Charlie's voice broke through the noise. Let us organize, fight, and show him what we're made of. But even as he felt the surge of courage, Jake's heart began to weigh heavy again. What if it wasn't enough? What if everything they had built was on the brink of being lost? What was their next move? Just as the crowd began to chant, a voice from the back carried through the turmoil a neighbor, agitated and crying out with fear. But what if he wouldn't listen? What if this was all for nothing? That question loomed above them like a storm cloud, heavy and threatening, as Jake turned toward the developer one last time, resolve brewing in his eyes. What were they truly up against? And could they really face the coming battle together? The crowd's energy pulsed around Jake, a tidal wave of emotions crashing over him. For a brief moment, as he stood there, hand clenched and heart racing, he felt the solidarity of every person behind him. It was electric. But that voice of doubt from the back of the pack clawed at him, a reminder that fear could just as easily breed despair as it could the courage to fight. What if he comes back with an offer we can't refuse? Another neighbor chimed in, her brow knit with concern. What if we lose everything? Jake took a deep breath, willing the tremor in his voice to subside. We won't lose everything. We have each other. We're more powerful than this developer thinks. We just have to show him that we matter. The energy in the air shifted slightly, as if the crowd was considering his words. Charlie stepped forward, determination shining in his eyes. What we need is a plan. We can't just shout and hope for the best. We need to show him that we're united, that this garden is part of our history, our identity. It's our voice. As Charlie spoke, Jake felt a flicker of hope. He was right. This wasn't just a battle over land, it was about heritage, about the roots that anchored them to this place. They were not just fighting for a garden, they were fighting for all the moments that had blossomed their weddings, birthdays, even simple BBQs on summer nights. Let us create a community action group, Charlie suggested, his voice piercing through the hesitation. Meet every week, organize rallies, document our stories, and share how important this garden is to us. Get the word out in the media. We can reach more people and maybe even stop this madness. The initial murmur of doubt turned to nods of agreement. Jake looked around, catching the eyes of his neighbors, people who had grown roots as deep as the plants they nurtured. All around him, fear was turning into fire. Decisions were taking shape. Okay, called a woman with tears brimming in her eyes, clutching her daughter's hand. Let us show him. He's right, this developer doesn't understand what this garden means, but if we work together, we can make him see. Emboldened by the wave of determination washing over them, Jake raised his hand, palm open. Let us start right now. I want everyone to share a memory here, a moment that mattered. Let us remind ourselves, and this developer, what we have. The crowd began to share stories, laughter mixing with tears as they recounted the countless evenings spent under the canopy of blooming flowers, the comfort felt from neighbors' smiles, and the bonds formed over shared toil in planting and harvesting. The memory of each tale felt like petals unfurling, beautiful and resilient. As words flew through the air, Jake felt something shift inside him. Maybe he didn't have all the answers, but he had hope. He had a community. They had each other. And together, they were already immense, but when his gaze drifted back to the developer, he noticed something unsettling in the man's expression, annoyance mixed with something darker. Jake's heart raced again as he realized this wasn't over. The developer wasn't the type to back down easily. Just then, the voices from the crowd hushed as a low rumble echoed in the distance. Heavy machinery rumbled down the street, the sound quickening Jake's pulse. Amongst the chants and cheers, fear settled back in the pit of his stomach. How close were they to losing everything? Stay vigilant, Charlie shouted over the noise, steadying the crowd. This fight is just beginning, and we need to be ready for whatever he brings next. Jake nodded, feeling the furnace of determination reignite. But questions lingered. Would they be ready? How would they face the next challenge? As the rumble grew nearer, the weight of possibility hung in the air, ready to shatter into a million pieces. What would come next? And could their unity withstand the storm? The machinery roared closer, its thunderous growl drowning out the last remnants of their hopeful chants. Jake felt the vibrations rising up from the earth beneath his feet, shaking him to the core. The reality of what they faced loomed larger than ever. He glanced at his neighbors' faces flushed with determination, but also with fear. This was more than just a garden, it was about fighting for their lives, their identities woven tightly into the very soil they stood upon. What do we do if they start tearing it apart? Someone whispered, breaking the thick silence that had settled over the crowd. That single statement hung like a dark cloud, drawing gasps and murmurs from the group. Jake's heart sank, and he felt a wave of responsibility crash over him. How could he reassure them when he felt the same nagging doubt? Listen, he shouted, his voice breaking through the noise of the approaching machinery. We've got to stay strong. Are we just going to let them come in here and take what's ours? This garden is our home. Just then, the first machine rumbled around the corner, its metal arm creeping forward like a predator stalking its prey. The sight sent shockwaves through the crowd. A mix of panic and anger surged, people began to shift their weight, uncertain. Jake raised his arm, rallying them, urging them not to let fear in. Don't run. Stand your ground. His voice rang out, steady now. Charlie stepped up beside Jake, his hand on his shoulder. This is our moment. Let us not just stand here, let us show them what we're made of. Grab signs, shout our memories, get our stories out there. It felt contagious. In an instant, the crowd sprang to life, grabbing whatever they could, banners they had made, pieces of paper with hastily scrawled messages, anything that could send a signal. Their voices united again, this time piercing the air with roars of resilience. "Save our garden. This is our home," echoed through the neighborhood, swelling in strength behind every set of lungs. With each phrase, Jake's own fears began to evaporate. Their energy began to transform the heavy machinery's intimidating presence into something they could confront, their collective voice gaining the weight of truth. But behind their rallying, Jake spotted something, a figure emerging from the shadows, the developer standing confidently a few feet away. His crisp suit stark against the chaos, he seemed unfazed by the passion erupting around him. He adjusted his glasses, taking in the scene like an amused spectator. "What's this? A childish display?" he scoffed, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "You really think your little act can stop progress?" Something snapped inside Jake. "You don't understand what you're up against. We'll fight for this garden, our memories, our community, every step of the way." The words poured out like a dam breaking, raw and unrestrained. The developer's expression soured, something darker flickering behind his eyes. "You underestimate me," he said, voice low. "I have plans in motion, and you'll find, dear neighbors, that this fight will not end how you think." The crowd recoiled at his words, a wave of uncertainty rolling through like a fog. Jake's heart thudded violently, merging fear with determination. Was this anger truly moving them forward, or was it setting them up for something far worse? With a heavy breath, Jake realized they were venturing into deeper waters. The battle wasn't just about confronting machines, but the forces that sought to erase them. They had woken a beast, and now they had to figure out how to tame it or risk losing everything. As the machine loomed ever closer, he thought of the garden, the stories, and what they stood to lose. The resolve hardened within him, and he turned back to his neighbors, their faces reflecting back the same fierce determination. Together, he urged, we can face whatever he throws at us. Let us show him not just our strength, but our heart. It's time to fight. But as they rallied, the developer smirked, and Jake knew deep down that the hardest battles lay ahead. Would they truly be able to weather the storm, or was it just the beginning of a fight that would test every fiber of their unity? The ground vibrated beneath Jake's feet as the machine drew closer, each rumble echoing like a thunderclap in the tense air. As the shouts of their resolve filled the neighborhood, the developer's unsettling smile remained fixed on his face, seeping into the hearts of those around Jake like frost creeping across the garden's petals. "Don't let him get to you," Charlie shouted, his voice barely rising above the noise. "We can do this, we have to believe." Jake felt the spark of hope igniting again. Charlie's words acted like a lifeline, tethering them to the mission at hand. He looked around. Their community wasn't just a collection of neighbors anymore, it was a family fortified with memories and dreams. Everyone there had contributed something of themselves to this garden. "Remember why we started?" Jake called out, hoping his voice would pierce through the layers of fear. "The first time we planted seeds, the stories we told, the laughter we shared. This isn't just dirt, it's our history." The crowd's energy shifted slightly. Faces reconnected with their memories, those cherished moments weaving back into their minds. They echoed Jake's words, a chorus of voices weaving a tapestry of shared experiences. Together, Jake emphasized, raising his fist high, we're louder than any machine. We're stronger than any corporate suit. He caught a glimpse of the developer's face, a flash of irritation crossing his features. It fueled Jake's determination. "We can't let them just take this from us. Let them hear us. Let the world hear us." And with that, they began to chant again, their voices rising like a powerful tide. "This is our home. Save our garden." Each cry seemed to mingle with the earth beneath them, resonating with a life of its own, grounding them, stealing away some of the heaviness the developer carried. In the distance, the machine lurched forward, its massive metal claw slicing through the air. It looked like a beast bent on destruction. For a moment, doubt crept back in. What if it broke their spirit? What if their fight was in vain? But as the machine came to a stop, an uneasy silence fell over the crowd. Jake felt the urgency swell inside him, the need to act quickly. "We need to make it personal," he urged, looking into the eyes of his friends and neighbors. Show them what this garden means to each of us. One by one, people began to step forward, sharing their stories. An elderly woman recounted how it bloomed with flowers from her childhood, bringing tears to her eyes. A young boy spoke up, recounting how he planted his first tomato plant there with his father. Each voice that rose gave strength to the next, emotions entwining their legs together, binding them in faith. Jake watched as the developer's expression twisted into disbelief. One by one, their stories peeled away his smug facade, exposing the heart of the neighborhood that thrummed like the beat of a drum. They were telling their truth, powerful and undeniable, igniting passions that no machine could ever silence. With each story, the masses grew louder. It was more than just a garden, it was love, hope, and the quiet power of resilience. But just as hope soared, the developer's smirk returned, dismissive and confident. You can share your stories all you want. It won't stop what's coming, he challenged, his voice cold and calculated. Jake could feel the weight of those words like stones dropping into a still pond, sending ripples of fear through the crowd. They were fighting against a system, not just a man. And he knew in his gut that just rallying wasn't enough. A chilling thought sparked in his mind. What if the developer had anticipated their every move? What if they were simply playing into his hands? As the machine's engines revved back to life, Jake had to wonder, was their courage alone strong enough to stand against not just the machinery, but the cunning of a man willing to tear their home apart? The storm was far from over. Jake's heart raced, knowing they had to find a strategy, something more than just heart and voices. The fight was only just beginning, and the challenge loomed ever larger. How far would they need to go to protect their home, their heart? The crowd seemed to shrink as Jake stood there, the looming machine a dark cloud overshadowing their hopes. He felt the undeniable pressure of time pushing against him, of urgency wrapping its relentless grip around his throat. The developer's unsettling confidence gnawed at him, raising a chill up the spine of every person present. Okay, think, Jake, think. He whispered to himself, scanning the faces surrounding him, the warmth of shared memories as real, as tangible, as the earth beneath their feet. He saw fire in their eyes, but fear flickering there too. They couldn't just speak up, they needed a plan. Listen up. Jake called just above the roar of the machine's engine. I know we've told our stories, but we need to take this fight into our own hands. We need a plan. We can't let him divide us. What if we turn the garden into a place of action? What he said caught their attention, curiosity sparking in the air. He gathered momentum, his own heart racing with ideas. Let us make it a celebration. A festival. Let us show everyone what this garden truly represents. We can bring the whole community together, showcase our history, our love, our commitment. Together, we're not just fighting for dirt, we're fighting for our future. Charlie broke into a grin, suddenly bursting with energy. A festival. Yes. We'll invite everyone, families, friends, even local businesses. Let us get media involved. We can plant more seeds, have games, share food. Remind everyone what this garden means. The crowd began to hum with possibilities. Laughter bubbled up, faces lifted with renewed hope. A festival could shift the narrative, turn the tide against the cold steel of the developer's machine. It became more than just a garden, it was a living legacy, a story in every flower. Jake's voice surged with excitement. Let us gather everyone. Farmers, artists, musicians, chefs. We will stand together, take back what he wants to erase. We'll unite not just as a neighborhood, but as a community. He didn't realize it then, but Jake was forging a bond that reached beyond just the physical structure of the garden. It was a bond of resilience, of determination. The hearts around him were igniting again, with each passing moment sparking new ideas for the festival. Let us make banners. Paint signs. Get the kids involved. Shouted a woman from the crowd, her face aglow with creativity. Someone suggested a communal mural celebrating the garden's spirit, and soon the grounds were alive with chatter and laughter as they brainstormed. But just as hope was crackling like static electricity in the air, the developer's voice cut through. You can have your little festival, he sneered, his expression leaning into amusement, eyes narrowing. It won't change the decision I've already made. Enjoy your fleeting moments of joy while you can. His words hung heavy, a dark cloud threatening the fragile spark of hope. The brave faces around Jake faltered briefly, but he refused to let despair creep back in. We won't let his words define us. They're just empty threats. This is our moment. Jake urged, rallying the crowd once again. This fight had transformed from mere resistance to an undeniable celebration of everything they cherished. His heart swelled with determination as he felt the collective spirit rise again. As plans started falling into place, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the developer wouldn't simply sit back and watch them thrive. He wouldn't let this go unnoticed. They needed to prepare for whatever was coming next. Would their festival bring the community closer together, or would it provoke a response from the very man seeking to destroy what they cherished? Would their unity be enough to withstand the storm on the horizon? Jake knew that while they might have reignited their spirits, the battle was only beginning. And he couldn't help but wonder, what lengths would the developer go to silence them? The days leading up to the festival buzzed with energy. The garden transformed into a hive of activity. Banners flapped in the breeze, vibrant colors splashed against the gray backdrop of the looming machine that threatened to erase their sanctuary. Volunteers gathered with determination, adults painted signs while children sketched their dreams of flowers and laughter. Jake moved through the crowd, fueled by excitement and nervous anticipation. He stopped to help a group string up twinkling lights in the trees, their laughter cutting through the late afternoon air, a sweet remedy against the tension that permeated the space. He could almost forget the threat looming overhead, but it lurked in the back of his mind, refusing to be silenced. As he stepped back to admire their work, he felt a surge of pride. This festival was burgeoning into something greater than he had imagined, a testament to their strength and unity. We're going to show them, he thought. Show the whole city what this garden means to us. Word had spread, and soon the garden was filled with music as local musicians set up their instruments, ready to perform. Artisans displayed their works, and families prepared dishes to share, creating a melting pot of flavors that spoke of their shared history. But even as joy bloomed in the hearts of many, threads of worry tugged at Jake's mind. Jake! Charlie called, rushing over, breathless with enthusiasm. The media is going to cover the festival. They're interested in stories, the heart behind this place. This could make a difference. His eyes sparkled with hope, but Jake felt a familiar weight settle back in. What would happen if the developer heard about the festival? Would it provoke him into taking drastic measures? Let us make sure everyone stays focused on the positivity, Charlie, Jake said, putting on a brave face. We don't want anything to derail what we've worked so hard for. The truth was, despite the laughter around him, Jake's heart thudded with anxiety. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the festival came alive. People gathered, excitement bubbling over. Faces that had once been filled with fear was now bright with joy, yet each laugh seemed to carry an unspoken acknowledgement of the threat still looming over them. They danced, smiled, wrapped arms around each other, creating a cocoon of warmth against the chill of uncertainty. Suddenly, the moment shifted. From the edges of the crowd, Jake spotted the developer's black silhouette lurking, his eyes cold and calculating. The laughter faltered, then resumed, but Jake felt the air thicken with worry. Is he just watching? Jake wondered. What does he plan to do? And then, in a moment that felt suspended in time, the developer took a step forward, his expression dark, words coiling around the laughter like a snake ready to strike. You think this will save your garden? You think this will stop me? Jake's heart raced as whispers of fear rippled through the crowd. They had come together in joy, but now faced the man who threatened their dreams not just to destroy a place, but to shatter the very spirit that had united them. As the tension crackled in the air, Jake stepped forward, heart pounding. His voice rang out, strong and firm against the weight of the developer's presence. This isn't just a garden. It's our home, our heartbeat. You can't take that away from us. The crowd hushed, holding its breath, waiting for what would happen next. Would they stand together or crumble under the pressure? Jake realized then that this was the moment they had prepared for, the moment that could either build them up or tear them apart. Would their newfound bond survive this brutal test, or would the developer's darkness snuff the light they had kindled? Jake stood, ready for the fight ahead. The atmosphere was electric. Tension filled the air like a storm brewing, and the crowd held their breath, waiting for the next words to escape the developer's lips. Each passerby's fingers brushed against the banners that flapped in the faint wind, carrying not just memories, but hope, joy, and resilience. It was all at stake now, every moment they had shared taking root in the garden of their hearts. Do you really think shouting slogans will deter me? The developer's voice was slick, like oil on water. He smirked, surveying the crowd with a cruel amusement. This is business, not a heartfelt reunion. I have everything set in motion to convert this area into profit. You'll just be forgotten tales. But Jake refused to let doubt take hold. He felt the strength of those beside him, neighbors and friends who had become family. He straightened his shoulders, meeting the developer's icy gaze, squeezing the fabric of his shirt until it felt like an anchor. Don't confuse passion for naivety. Jake shouted, his voice projecting through the crowd, growing louder with each phrase. You underestimate the power of community. We are more than a plot of land. We are stories, memories, laughter, and dreams that have taken root in this soil. Each word fell like thunder, igniting something deep within every member of the crowd. Around him, neighbors slowly began to nod, murmurs of agreement rising like the tide. They stood taller, shoulders squared, fists balled. Jake felt something shift, the fear that had gripped them began to dissipate like mist under a bright sun. They were standing together, no longer just individuals who had shared the garden's fruits but a unified front ready to fight for what they loved. Every flower here represents perseverance. Every vegetable is a lesson in hard work and togetherness, Jake continued, eyes blazing. You can't put a price on that. Suddenly, Charlie stepped forward. I don't think you understand. He addressed the developer. You see our garden as an opportunity to erase our legacy. But we don't just grow plants, we grow roots. You'll never take that from us. Each member of the crowd echoed Charlie's sentiment with determined shouts, a powerful symphony of resistance ringing out against the cold authority of the developer. No matter how big your machines or empty your words, we will preserve what matters. This garden represents our identity. Our families grew here. Our children play here. This is our life. The ground seemed to pulse with the force of their unity, and just as the developer squared his shoulders, prepared to deliver another blow, something magical began to happen. People stepped out of the shadows, neighbors who had once been on the fringes of the crowd, their voices found, joined the throng. Stories spilled forth how their parents had found hope in planting seeds, how community bonds had flourished with every cared-for patch of earth. The more they spoke, the more Jake felt the collective heartbeat grow stronger, surging through their community like a wildfire. You'll never silence us. Jake declared, the power of love overcoming fear. This garden is where our stories begin. We won't stand by and watch you tear it down. The developer's confidence wavered, his smirk turning thin. The energy surged, gathering in a heady mixture of solidarity and determination, illuminating their faces with courage. They were standing strong, reflecting back their concerns, their dreams, refusing to back down. Save our garden. Someone cried out again, and soon the crowd erupted into a unified chant. Save our garden. Save our garden. The sound wrapped around them like a blanket of hope, rallying to fortify the spirit that had flickered and danced like leaves in the breeze. Behind them, the machine came to a sputtering halt, its presence no longer looming ominously but instead, an idle piece of metal dwarfed by the vigor of a community reborn. The developer's expression morphed from contempt to confusion. We are not just weeds. Jake shouted, pushing through the crowd. We are the heart of this neighborhood, and we are standing together. You think we'll be forgotten? Not today. In that moment, it was clear, they were a force to be reckoned with. Jake felt the energy shift, a powerful wave of connection rising between each person in the crowd. And even though the road ahead remained uncertain, the air shimmered with the undeniable truth that together, they could weather any storm. The victory was sweeter than he had hoped for. They had taken a stand, their collective voice reshaping the face of their community. As cheers erupted, Jake felt a rush of love swell in his chest, a love not just for the garden, but for the very people who had helped cultivate a dream far greater than he had imagined possible. Turning to the developer one last time, Jake stated firmly, "You'll have to fight us to take this away. And we're ready." With that, the crowd surged in a sea of solidarity around Jake, leaving the developer standing on the other side of a wall built from hope and resilience. Victory wasn't just in saving the garden, it was about unearthing the bonds that had always existed, the connections waiting to blossom, now finally uncaged and roaring fiercely under the open sky. And as dusk began to settle, casting a golden hue over their haven, Jake allowed a smile to break free. This was a moment of triumph, a completely new definition of success rooted not in winning or losing, but in the transformation of a community rediscovering itself. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Jake stood among his friends and family, confident that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. It was a new beginning, not just for the garden, but for every heart that had fought to see love prevail. And thus, like dusk giving way to dawn, the future brimmed with possibilities brighter than gold and sweeter than any harvest. Now, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now, because you don't want to miss the next inspiring stories that uplift and empower. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It helps more than you know. Comment below your feelings about this transformation. Did it move you? Did it ignite a spark within you? And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this hope. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second. True fans rally together.